All right, let's do it live on a First Friday Miracle edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. How are you, pal?
I think I'm on. There we go. I was on and off.
Now you're on.
It'd be so helpful to have that light.
Your phone, though, because we're FaceTiming. So
there we go.
Mute your phone on the FaceTime.
We got so much going on
mute
here,
it?
Beau. There's a lot to deal with.
He's a professional, guys. He really knows what he's doing.
Yeah, a professional.
No, he's
How
not.
about let's have a Zoom meeting set up? You could just have it set up. You don't have to be a participant, Gibby. You could just have it set up so that we're in it. Now
I'm rolling on Odell in the Zoom
three devices
currently.
going on right now.
There's only one Zoom room, kids.
How many computers are in that room?
One.
I don't believe it.
Jeez.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I've seen multiple computers.
It's been 32 weeks since I've been in that room, and I think I'm probably with Gibby on that it might be just a one computer situation.
There's a computer right here, and there's a computer right there. That at a minimum is two.
Oh, two.
At a minimum.
There's a laptop and a second computer.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
He's going to say the second computer's only for streaming this out. I do believe it has multiple browsers, though. They could just set up a Zoom room and send us a link. That's all.
Number one, there's only one Zoom account.
I don't know about that.
So let's start there.
I feel like the way
Number
Zoom
two,
stock is going,
there is a
multiple
correction.
Zooms.
There is a correction. I stand corrected. There is a second computer.
Oh,
the second computer is currently our live stream, our Twitter, and our YouTube.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, and then the other computer is currently recording Odell Beckham Jr., who is having himself quite a day at the podium.
In our Lord's year 2020, I do believe a computer is able to do multiple tasks simultaneously.
Actually, not this one.
I believe.
So two browsers or a second window opened potentially would alleviate some some of this.
Except, again, it goes back to there's one Zoom account.
It's weird,
if one of you two would like
iPad,
to create your own Zoom account.
Just my iPad can Zoom
you
Teams,
are running
FaceTime.
the Odell Beckham Jr. Zoom conference off of your account, Gibby?
I'm currently rolling it into my computer right now. So it sounds
through
better.
your Zoom account. I see.
Yes.
You're rolling. So that's why. So where we're lacking here is probably we got to see if the good people at Zoom would allow us to create our own CBD Zoom account.
That's right.
That would be
you
always
guys could create
unencumbered.
your own Zoom account for free.
Oh no. We're talent. We don't do that.
That's the work of a huge P.
No,
that's a giant P job right there.
Yeah.
That's when you flex the giant P at that point. That's how that works.
You're saying something that
all
has to
you
do with
guys.
the production
Where's Steve?
of the show.
Can we get Stevie?
Stevie
to do it?
Ned Fox Plimpton. He'd set up a Zoom.
Oh, that
He'd have a Zoom.
Zoom
He'd have a Zoom by 3 o'clock. Green nail polish on it.
Whatever you need.
Whatever you need.
Just like Saban
There are
with
ways,
COVID
dude.
tests. You need it in 3 hours? Easy.
You could make it
By
happen.
3 o'clock.
Or you can just show up at 5 to 1 and do your show. It's all good.
Follow the talent, Gibby.
So much fun. This is what I needed to start.
Yeah, we did need it. We did need it. We're on to Cincinnati. We're feisty.
It's been heavy.
Disrespect abounds. Right here.
Really
Starting
does.
right here. Just outside this window.
Yep, people are thriving on negativity, left and right, thriving on negativity. As we get into the OBM Hot Topics, Ohio Business Machines preferred copy provider of your Cleveland Browns. Follow the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Several players will not be practicing today. Jacob Phillips, here's a new one. Andrew Sendejo not practicing. Wyatt Teller with the calf. Carl Joseph and Ronnie Harrison are back, though. So big positive news in the safety room getting Joseph and Harrison, who's now clear of concussion protocol, back. Sendejo shows up on it. That's a new one. The other two were expected.
The other two were expected, and you're right. This is certainly a new one when it comes to Sendejo as you get ready for this team and you get ready for the Bengals. You know, now we have a lot of questions. What will we see on the back end? Again, just under the supposition that perhaps, you know, when you miss on a Wednesday, we don't know what that means for Sendejo's availability for the game. And so I would expect initially you're going to see Redwine with Harrison as your safeties. And it'll be interesting to see if Carl Joseph and Harrison end up together back there, or if you stick with Redwine at the free, Harrison at the strong, while Sendejo is out. So this is something that's interesting to keep an eye on, how that goes in that safety room, because you're asking me, this is, again, my my opinion, nothing wrong with what Karl Joseph's done. Ronnie Harrison is trending towards being a person who needs to be on the field at all times.
Yeah, playmaker.
Yeah,
around the ball consistently, pick six. Should have had maybe another one. I mean, he's a playmaker at safety, and he's gotten better and better with every opportunity. And now you got to see what, a week on the shelf did and make sure the cobwebs are clear and he's ready to go.
Sure.
But passing protocol is huge, and let's get him out there and see what happens against, a Cincinnati team, as we'll get into the breakdown as the show goes along, but a Cincinnati team that's not afraid to put it in the air and spin it. Now, they're not throwing it 60 times like they did against us the last time around, but Joe Burrow will throw the ball around. And the emergence of T. Higgins is a big deal. That was something we didn't really have to contend with the first time we played them. He wasn't really integrated into the offense now at that point, but he is now. And so now you're talking about, and now A.J. Green back reintroduced into the offense after what he did last week. So now you're talking about three good receivers to deal with, and you're going to need to be at or near as close as you can be to full strength in the back end to be able to handle it.
Yeah, it is truly a three-receiver group now at this point, in the sense that A.J. Green's got 215 yards on the season, but as you astutely pointed out, Beau, the bulk of that came this past week where he had 8 catches for 96 yards, so basically half of it. So you get A.J. Green back in. Boyd's your leading receiver. Boyd's caught 37 of his 48 targets, 416 yards. And then you mentioned T. Higgins, 22 catches, 339 yards for Higgins, who, again, at 6'4", 215, they've got two big guys on the outside, and now they've got in that slot Boyd and Higgins. His first 3 weeks produced 75 yards total. His last 3 weeks, that would be 139 plus 125, so 264. So he's averaging, almost 90 yards a game the last 3 weeks. So, yes, this is a multifaceted, multi-talented passing attack.
Yes, it is. And we'll get into some of the breakdown in terms of what the Bengals are, what they do differently from the last time, which honestly feels like last week. It feels like we played the Bengals last week. I can't believe that was week 2, and we're going into week 7. And it's been that long. It doesn't feel like it, but it has been. So much has changed. Gibby asked the question, we're 4-2. Why does the vibe after Sunday feel like 2-4? Well, you're gonna hear the Baker Mayfield press conference. You'll hear parts of the Kevin Stefanski presser. You'll hear parts of the Odell Beckham Jr. presser a little bit later on. I do think there is a reason for that, Z, but you have your hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
Just going to say, I have had the great pleasure of doing this show 5 days a week since the 2013 season.
Yep.
And it does not take much jogging of the memory banks to know that there has been, other than the start of the 2014 season and the finish of the 2018 season.
Correct.
There's been a lot of struggle. I have never, after week 6, been a part of a 4-2 team like this where the sky is falling. Browns fans, we've gone through the sky is falling scenarios after week 6 justifiably many, many times. This is not one of those times. And yet, that's the narrative. And we're going to hear the guys, as you mentioned, talk about it. And I do think that there has been a very pervasive and strong assault on the performance of our quarterback, Baker Mayfield, in the national media this week. And if you were to just watch that, having no knowledge of the standings this year, you would think the Browns were perhaps 0-6, 1-5, and on the brink of having to make a major organizational decision. The Browns are 4-2. We are not on the precipice of making a major organizational decision. Our quarterback is coming off of a admittedly subpar game, and really what he would say would probably be the worst 6 quarters of football that he's played this year. But he has also had 3 games in a row where his quarterback rating was over 100. He's had 2 back-to-back games without interceptions and guided this team to, over a 4-week stretch, being the highest scoring offense in the NFL and being an undefeated team for that 4-game stretch. So the truth is probably somewhere in everything's perfect, everything's fine versus the sky's falling, we're 0-6. The truth's in the middle. 4-2 is in the middle of that. But you like to be having discussions about what we can do better while you already have, as I like to say, going far. The hay's in the barn.
Hay's in the barn, baby.
You got 4 hays, 4 wins, 4 bales already in the barn.
4 bales.
You know what I'm saying?
You need 4. Yeah, 4 tons, probably 4 tons.
Maybe. A win's a bale to me. That's all. We're keeping it manageable.
A win's a bale.
Just
a
so
bale's
one person,
pretty minimal. So
one person can walk it around.
Let's go. Yeah, that's fine.
When you're running cattle,
right,
you've got to be free.
You got to have you got to make sure there's hay in the barn to feed them because it's going to get cold.
That's right.
You lived it. You grew up that way. A couple of ththings. Some of this is the privilege of expectations.
Yes.
Right? So this is a team that we said go make the playoffs. We're on path to go make the playoffs. We're 4-2. So some of it is that. And so this is what happens when, and we've talked about this before, I've done this for a lot of years on the Ohio State front, where you pick apart wins. You remember that comment last week from Baker talking about, it's nice to be able to be critical in a win. That's a lot better than being critical in a loss. Well, he lived that at Oklahoma, where they would be critical of play in wins, and that happens when you have expectations. That happens when your standards are very, very high. We're building towards that. So some of it's that. Some of it is it didn't look right. That's the other part. It wasn't. I don't know that you had to win. You didn't have to beat Pittsburgh. It was a tall task, but it didn't look right. And the other thing is it's repeatable now. We've seen this formula happen in Baltimore, and we've seen it happen in Pittsburgh against the very best teams in the league. Some of it is locally. A lot of people. The currency of negativity is a powerful one here. It is. It's part of it. It reminds me very much of people who covered the Boston Red Sox before they eventually won it, where there was a great deal of currency in talking about the curse of the Bambino. It was something that was brought up constantly. It was almost like it was part of the identity of the fan base of the people who covered it. And I sense a lot of the same things here, that it's part of the identity. The misery is part of the identity of the fan base, and and not so much in this case, but in the people who cover it. Nationally, there's another factor to it. And you know this, having done national media before. If you're doing one of those debate shows, you can track everything. So you can track interaction. You can track when your ratings spike. What is a hot button topic? So among the hot button topics in the last decade, one that was really incredible to now in retrospect was Tim Tebow. So there was a time when Tim Tebow was playing in the NFL that you could put him in a rundown of a debate show, and it would get sent and shared throughout the stratosphere.
Yep.
And it didn't matter. And so the producers of those shows would say, what do we got on Tebow today? We got to have something on Tebow here. Now, the other things that have been like this, Kaepernick has been like this,
Sure.
LeBron's like this.
Sure.
These are hot-button issues. For whatever reason, Baker Mayfield is one of those hot-button topics. It was something that we saw when he came out. Obviously, Cowherd has used this for many years. He has engaged it himself, going on those shows and being a part of it. We saw him go with Rex Ryan on ESPN last year in the offseason. We saw him go with Colin Cowherd and confront it, and he thrives in it. He likes it. There's no question. But one thing about it, when you participate in that, you continue to be a part of it. And so when you're talking about the national criticism this week, yeah, because he is a hot-button topic. He is somebody that when you speak about negatively or positively will be shared throughout the social media, which will then increase ratings and increase the amount of conversation around your show. So he has been a topic on every one of those debate-style shows.
Yep.
And that's why that happens. That's why it is. So all of those things are true. None of that has anything to do with how you play on the field, unless you let it. And none of that has how you're going to play against Cincinnati. Also true that while all of those things may be happening, that very likely is not the way that much of this fan base feels, and it's certainly not the way this organization feels.
Correct. And so it becomes, again, noise, unfortunately, that
yes.
all you can do to stop it. And I believe it's ironic because we have had, I think, a discussion, maybe not verbatim, that we just had multiple times in the last 3 years.
Yeah. And
it really rears its head when, there is a poor performance from Baker Mayfield, which is, admittedly, it's not like he's saying, I was great, you all have it wrong, you're a bunch of bozos. He's saying, I did struggle in that game, and I've got to be better for this football team, which is the truth. He's aware of it. He knows it. And now it's time, to do it. The best part of this is if there's one team that Baker has really, really done, from his career standpoint, a great job against, it is the Bengals. This is the team that he has played his best against for his career. There's no doubt. I mean, he started off his first 2 games as a rookie, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions in 2 wins. He started his first career now 4-1 against them. He's thrown for multiple touchdowns in 4 of the 5 games against them. Career 62% completion, 1,232 yards in 5 games, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, quarterback rating of 102.2, and as I said, a 4-1 record. This is exactly who he wants to see coming up. The first time this year, 16 of 23, 70% completions, 9.5 yards per attempt, 219, 2 touchdowns, the 1 interception, quarterback rating 110.6. Let's go. 3 times he's had a quarterback rating over 110 against this football team. Let's go.
Yep. That's what that is. We'll have the full Baker press conference a little bit later. Here was Baker, though, earlier today about what it feels like inside the building.
Yeah, feeling throughout the building after that loss. 4-2's never felt so much like 0-6 before. So, but that's because we have very high expectations for ourselves. So we're eager to get back to work and to get out there and fix the problems that we know are within our own control.
You're up.
Yeah, that's it. It's the privilege of expectations. He lived with this at Oklahoma. Buckeye fans know what this is about, and you're 4-2, and you're picking apart, one of the 2 losses. This is life when you're good, and that's what this organization certainly aspires to be, and we're headed in that direction. Are you a sports fan looking for a part-time weekend job? You can get into the action at First Energy Stadium, home of your Cleveland Browns. Wes is now hiring part-time event staff and security. Apply online at weshiring.com. Coming up next, you'll hear from Baker's head coach, Kevin Stefanski, at the podium, recorded here within the last hour. That's coming up. You'll hear from Baker a little bit later on, and we'll take a look at Cincinnati, what they were then, what they are now, off and running here on a First Friday edition, Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. 21 years ago, guys. Man, Alex starting this thing out of a garage in Lakewood. And to celebrate those humble beginnings in that garage, Alex is giving something to you. A huge mattress garage sale. Look, guys, same high-quality mattresses they always have, just lower prices. And anything mattress-related, they're going to go ahead and have you covered. Pillow top, memory foam, gel foam, all the sizes, also 0% financing available. During the garage sale, Sierra Sleep, $399. Kenilworth Queen Pillow Top, $499. Oakmont Queen Double-Sided Pillow Top, $799. They're all in stock and they're ready to deliver. Plus more great deals on mattresses and, frankly, everything, because it's how they roll at Northeast Factory Direct. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia. The Clearance Center in Maple Heights, or online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. All right, Coach Stefanski meeting the media today as they kick off Cincinnati week. This from just within the hour. Here's Coach at the podium.
We'll be inside.
Guys are down
out there on those fields. Big challenge this week. This is a game that went down to the wire there in week 2. This team plays everybody tight. Their scores have been within one score except for one at Baltimore. The last time they were in their building, they won by 8. So I think it's a really good football team. I know they're well coached. You look at them across the board on offense and defense, I think they have a bunch of playmakers. On defense, there's a few guys that are in and a few guys that are out, but by and large, it should be a similar scheme that we faced. But it's a really good scheme. They threw every front imaginable at us last time, so we got to be ready and on our toes. On our defensive side, obviously a big challenge with this offense. Quarterback's playing really well. Weapons at running back, tight end, wide receiver, guys that can touch it and go. Good special teams. I thought we got to really compete in the special teams area this week. So big challenge going on the road versus a division opponent. With that, I will take any questions.
Yeah, hey, Kevin. During the offseason, Baker admitted to losing a little bit of his confidence last season. I think he even used the phrase that he even doubted himself at times. What do you have to do to make sure that does not happen this season, especially after a game like the one in Pittsburgh?
I think we're just all focused, Jake, on getting back out there and playing our brand of football. I think we're all ready to get out here in the practice field and it's the fun part of the rhythm of this season and the rhythm of the week. You get to focus all of your energies on the given day. So I think all of our guys are looking forward to working this week and then being able to put our best foot forward on Sunday.
Hey, Kevin, and I know you talk about not riding the wave, but is it hard at all not to make changes or overreact after a loss like Sunday?
I don't want to overreact or underreact. I just want to properly react. So I promise we're trying to get one game better.
And you and Baker both said he would do more this week. Do you expect him to still be limited today? Is he going to throw during practice this week as opposed to last week?
He'll throw. He'll be limited, but not to the extent he was last week.
Hey, Coach, I'm just wondering, when you look at the way, you talked a lot about this past game, how you felt that you did not call the game the way that you needed to get Baker protected, the way you wish you would have. So my question is, as you've gone through and you've gotten to know, you guys didn't have an off season, as you've gone through each week and you've gotten to know Baker and his skill set more, is it just continuing to be sort of a work in progress for you? And now, like, for instance, do you have to find ways to scheme it up so that, when he gets hemmed in and he's in the pocket, you guys have to, figure out ways to help him be more effective? And, just how has this been playing out for you as you learn him?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question, Mary Kay, but I would say we're really doing that for every position. I think towards our offensive line, certain things that those guys do well, we're going to increase certain schemes or maybe not do certain schemes that we thought might make sense. So, but as it relates to Baker, I think I'm learning about him each week. He's learning about me, how I call the game. I think that's just the natural evolution of an NFL season. And your offense does go through an evolution. You do start to figure out you're good at one thing, and then you got to protect that thing so the defense doesn't always know it's coming out of a certain personnel or a certain formation. So there's a very real evolution that goes on, I think, in every NFL offense throughout a season.
Hey, Coach. Early in the second quarter on the broadcast, it sounded like Baker was using a similar snap count, a similar cadence. There were 3 plays specifically, one a 2nd and 4 play action. The corner blitz kind of got him in the backfield. Conklin had us hold, and then that early jump on Baker's second interception. How do you guys plan on altering that? Is something you work on in the game or talk about during practice? Is that something that Baker just needs to have a better sense of? What is that conversation like between you two?
Yeah, Ellis, that's something that we work on during the week, and that's one area that I have to do a much better job, varying those snap counts, not letting teams time it up, getting the play in quickly so we can line up and we're not up against the clock, because that's one way to jump for the defenses. They're just staring at that play clock. So that's that's one of those areas that I know I can do a better job at.
Hey, Kevin, with Teller sitting out today, do you think you're still at least a week away from getting him back?
Yeah, it's those injuries are hard. He's trying. I don't like to rule guys out, especially a guy like Wyatt, but he's pushing hard. It's going to be hard, though.
And is Hubbard still the next man up there at right guard?
Yes.
Odell is
1 minute
for career lows in several categories: targets, receptions, receiving yards. How do you manage that with maximizing a player like that while also keeping in mind that you do lead the league in rushing? Is that something you pay attention to? And the other thing is he's not getting a lot of yards after the catch right now. How do you unlock a little bit of that? Similar to what we kind of saw in the Dallas game.
Yeah, you said it. There's always things that we can do better. We can
30
plays. Just the rhythm of how we call them. I've said it before. It's no mystery. He's a big part of our success. So our success, winning ball games, he's gonna be a big part of it. And I hope that includes individual success. Obviously, for him, for all of our players, I want them all to have individual success.
Stand by.
But number one is the team success, and obviously he goes a very, very long way in our success.
You're up.
Yeah, it's an interesting one in that Odell obviously is a super duper star, and so there are. But it's interesting that question, and it was Jake who did it, and it's a fair question. It's one that is never really asked about Jarvis, who frankly, from a Hall of Fame numbers standpoint, his jersey's in the Hall for a reason. He had more catches. Now Michael Thomas is beating those records, but he set the pace for most receptions to start a career, 2, 3, 4, so forth.
Yeah.
And those aren't asked. And the one thing that I would say, and you would be able to tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, but those two guys they don't care about any in wins. You can see it. You see who they celebrate with, all of that. Of course, everybody wants to participate and you want to be a part of it. But it's when it happens after a loss where the frustration gets there and gets magnified. But it's not touches or numbers. It's the winning that's the problem.
Well, there are two things, right? First of all, one, it's big picture. It's about winning and losing. And they felt that as a team, they wanted to go in, make a statement, and beat the Steelers. And instead, it was not a competitive game. That hurts as a competitor. Now, on the second part of it, which, again, this is all about wins and losses, is that when you are a player, the talent of Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, and you lose and you don't get the ball, I would imagine it is natural to think, well, maybe I could have helped us.
Maybe I could have helped, yes.
Had I gotten some opportunities.
Yeah.
And so that's always going to be a part of it, and that's a part of it in any team sport. Anybody who's listening that's ever played in a team sport where you were one of the best players on your team, if a game, a hoops game, for example, and you were the team's leading scorer, second leading scorer, and for whatever reason that game the ball didn't find you, you didn't get a lot of opportunities, you guys got boat raced, first you'd be mad about the fact that you lost because all you want to do is win, and losing makes you sick. Yeah. But the other part, you'd be, well, if we're going to go down, I want to go down with all of our best guys getting every opportunity.
Yep. Did we throw our best punch?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what that's about. And you'll hear from Odell a little bit later in the show. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated since 1932, been in business 87 years, keeping neighborhoods clean and green. The customers, employees, and communities, all part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. We'll take a look at the Cincinnati Bengals and what to expect from them and what's different from week 2 when we saw them to now. That's coming up next. Baker Mayfield at the podium here in about 15 minutes. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Look, they're your go-to for any home improvement need. And this month, take advantage of their great roof offer. It's a buck down. It's 7 years, 0% financing. You get the new roof that your home needs. Guys, you know winter is coming. The weather here, it's turning by the minute, by the second. It's going to get worse, too, and you know it. Don't get stuck in the cold with that leaky roof. Get it fixed. Get it replaced. Weather Seal can make your new roof a reality. They can do it in a week. Call 877-351-SEAL or visit weathersealhomeservices.com. That sale ends at the end of this month. That is Halloween, October 31st. Approved credit prior sales are excluded. 877-351-SEAL or visit weathersealhomeservices.com. The biggest difference between the Bengals then and the Bengals now is what, Z?
Well, on the defensive side of the ball, it's Geno Atkins is back. That's the biggest difference. That guy who has been synonymous with this organization defensively has been back for the last 2 games. I would say overall, the biggest difference is they have a little bit of balance. As you mentioned, the emergence of T. Higgins. They've gotten healthier on defense, generally speaking, on the back end. But it really, they're not all that different. This was a team that in week 1 of the season almost beat the Chargers. They've been competitive all year long. I would say they are truly now a 3-pronged passing attack because Higgins really wasn't a factor when they played us. In that game, he had 3 catches for 35 yards. Now, he did play 60 snaps in that game, so he was out there. He just wasn't as productive. He and Burrow certainly seemed to have a chemistry. You know, Joe Mixon, and it sounds like he's not going to practice this week. I do think they expect him to be able to play, but Joe Mixon, his involvement is still not really there. In terms of carries, sure, you could say, yeah, they're getting him the ball. They're trying to be more balanced. But Joe Mixon was, the second leading rusher in the NFL over the final 8 games a year ago. He was an incredibly effective runner a year ago. In 2018, 4.9 yards a carry. Second half of 2019, he was nearly 5 yards a carry. He's only at 3.6 yards a carry. So what hasn't changed is that their offensive line is continuing to struggle to open up running lanes, to open up holes so that they can have that true balance on offense. They're trying. First 3 games of the season, 19 carries, 16 carries, 17 carries. So basically 17 a game. Last 3 games, 25, 24, 18 in terms of the carries. He's also had 14 receptions in the last 3 after having 7 receptions in the first 3. So they're clearly trying to get him the ball. He had 31 touches against the Jags. That's the game. He puts up 181 total yards, 3 touchdowns. They win. Baltimore, 24 for 59, 6 for 35. So 30 touches again, just under 100 total yards. Last week against Indy, 18 for 54 and a touchdown on the ground. But these yards per carry, it's not there. And when Joe Mixon, when he plays the Browns, he's rushed for 100 yards 3 times against the Browns. He's 2-1. In the games where he doesn't rush for 100 yards, they're 1-4. 1-3. I'm sorry. How he goes really determines how this organization goes.
Yeah. If you're looking for another thing that's different, their approach in the passing game is different as well. If you recall when we played them, and I remember this in the lead up to the game, much of Burrow's success was short. It was a short passing game. He was averaging a little over 5 yards a completion, an attempt at that point. That has changed. He's now far greater in that sense. It started right after us. He went to 7.1 yards against Philly. Then he's at 8.3 against Jacksonville, down to 6.1 against Baltimore, back at 8 yards against Indy. His passing, his completion percentage since playing us has also been incredible. He's 70% against Philly, 70% against Jacksonville, 63 against Baltimore, almost 64 against Indy in their loss last week. He is throwing the ball down the field more than he did early in the season. That's something that's changed also in their passing game. I would imagine, and it's not like I've studied every one of their games, but my hunch is that that's the introduction of T. Higgins and then more recently A.J. Green, that now he has people down the field that he's connecting with. He was throwing those balls early in the season. They just weren't connecting on him, and now they are. They are a far more diverse attack in that they are throwing the ball down the field more than they were when they played us in week 2.
When we first played them, and he's still struggling, more than 20 yards in the air on the season, he is just 2 for 28. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's more than 20 yards on the season. But where he has become really good And this is a problem area for a lot of defense because now you're getting into safety linebacker areas, especially in a lot of those zone coverages. That's 10 to 19 yards in the air. Listen to this. Outside the numbers left, 10 to 19 yards in the air, 8 of 11, 123 yards, quarterback rating of 110. Middle of the field, 10 to 19 yards in the air, 24 of 35. 369 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 101. 10 to 19, outside the numbers to the right, 12 of 18, 204 yards. So we're talking over 10 yards an attempt everywhere. Quarterback rating of 105. Again, we've talked a little bit about the challenges in our passing game in that 10 to 19 air yard region, specifically in the middle of the field. And Joe Burrow is playing as well as anybody in that area. And that is, when you have 3 receivers, that is incredibly impressive.
Yes. Yeah. He'll throw it anywhere, and he throws it with confidence. And they're better now than they were when we played them the last time, and they gave us all that you wanted at that time. I was glad they didn't get the ball back, frankly, because at that point it just felt like there was no stopping them. They were running up and down the field. So those are a couple of things that they're doing differently. Atkins certainly a very big deal in terms of being on that offensive line. Also really important to this is the fact that we will not have Nick Chubb in this game. And if you remember that game, this was the game where you brought in Kareem Hunt to salt the game away, who was completely healthy and fresh in the fourth quarter. Yep. You won't have an ability to do that on Sunday.
You won't. And now it's Kareem and then D'Ernest Johnson, but that's not the same as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And we all know that, and that's not a knock in any way against D'Ernest Johnson, who's it was one of our favorite guys, and we love what he's shown when he's been given the opportunities. It's a very different game for us offensively. The luxury of bringing in a guy who led the league in rushing 3 years ago, totally fresh against a worn-down defense, is a unique thing. And frankly, it was a wonderful thing for the Cleveland Browns. That part of it is gone, but the game plan can still be the same. You're going to have an opportunity to take shots down the field. You've got to connect on them, and you're going to be able to run the ball against this team. And when they have the ball, they've given up more pressures than any team in the NFL. You're going to be able to get after Joe Burrow. So this is a game that should set up for what is our familiar script. Now, that all being said, this is also a team that went into Indianapolis and raced out on the road to a 21-0 lead. Mm-hmm. They ceded that lead. They lost that game. But they are dangerous, and you cannot take this team lightly. Joe Burrow's just understanding of the game has grown exponentially from that first meeting in week 2 on a short week.
Yeah. A little bit later, we will play some of the Odell Beckham Jr. press conference where he was really passionate and emotional. And I'm just saying this here within the last 5 minutes, and I'm wondering if he had this information before his availability. But the LSU is banning Odell from their facilities for 2 years for handing out cash. Remember that image of him in the locker room after they won the national title with the cash? And I thought it seemed like it was all just in good fun. But LSU has a lot of other problems with boosters paying players, and they're getting rid of scholarships and some other things. And so he was in that, and I wonder if he had that information before he had his media availability.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would put you in a bad mood for sure.
Absolutely.
Not that his presser was that way, but if that was weighing on him as well, that's a lot going on.
Of course it is. And he's somebody that, without a doubt, absolutely identifies with and loves his college experience. And the guys, we have so many guys on this team now from LSU. That cuts deep, I imagine. That cuts deep.
Yes.
This has been, he would probably say this has not been a good week. Maybe not as bad as Ryan Fitzpatrick's week, because he is, I want to hug him.
We'll get to that.
But
that's unbelievable.
Not a great week.
No, not. You'll hear from Baker Mayfield up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Full-service sign company, serving their clients for over 91 years. Contact the experts at Brilliant Electric Sign to provide you a state-of-the-art signage solution that's going to grow your business. You can visit them at brilliantsign.com. And if your game plan for this season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Here's your quarterback break, Baker Mayfield, with his weekly meeting with the media from earlier today.
Hey, Baker, how is
both down
ribs, the chest feeling this week? And Coach Stefanski said on Monday that he thought you'd be able to do a little bit more in practice this week than you were able to last week. Is that going to be the case?
Yeah. Luckily, didn't have any setbacks, so yeah, should be able to do a lot more in practice, get more reps.
Hey, Baker, I know you're tough on yourself, especially after you have a performance that you don't think is up to your standards. You used the word landslide the other day, and I know you're talking about the team not letting it snowball on you. But on a personal level, how do you stop it from, when you're not playing well, from being able to just kind of shake it off and move on to like a next play mentality?
Yeah, I got to have a short memory playing quarterback. That's for the good and the bad, but especially the bad. Finding, getting back to the basics, finding completions. And, it's tough when you're in a momentum swing like that to get back on track. But this position, you have to be able to do that. So it's about finding completions and getting back to the basics.
Obviously, the two losses stand out just from a team standpoint and probably from a personal standpoint and how you played. Was there any comment, and obviously two really good in-division teams, was there anything about those performances of yours, though, Baker, that stood out to you where you saw that you weren't doing something that you should be doing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of completions left out there to, not let them up front pin their ears back and bring a bunch of different crazy blitzes, get the ball out of their hands, not let them, get a little taste for hitting the quarterback and getting some of those sacks. Playing the field position game early on is more than okay. You don't have to win it in the first quarter. So I think there's things, little details wise that I can do a whole lot better at.
Hey, Baker, I know you have Kareem Hunt and Ernest Johnson, but do you think without Nick Chubb, do you feel that there's more on your shoulders than there was when he was healthy?
No, obviously losing a player and a person like Nick is never great, but no, I don't feel any added pressure because of that.
Hey, Baker, we talked before the season about how you doubted yourself at points last year. After a game like Sunday, does your confidence take a hit at all?
No, I think it's all very correctable things, and that will be corrected. So, no, I don't feel the same way.
So then how important is it for you and the team to quickly bounce back against Cincinnati because you're still 4-2 and everything's right in front of you?
Yeah, I'd say the feeling throughout the building after that loss, 4-2's never felt so much like 0-6 before. So, but that's because, we have very high expectations for ourselves. So we're eager to get back to work and to get out there and fix the problems that we know are within our own control.
Yeah, Baker, you said we're talking about the mood of the building. Do you have to take the lead on sort of perking people up? Who do you rely on to kind of get this going?
Yeah, that's something I definitely have to do. But it's got to be everybody. We got to realize that it only counts for one loss, and the most important game is the next one. So we got to get back to work and handle it with that mentality.
And how do you keep yourself from thinking about? There's a stretch of games that looks like you'll be expected to win. So how do you keep yourself from looking at that too big a picture and just trying to fix this?
With that singular game mindset, first and foremost, and no matter what the expectations are on the outside, we have to go in there and handle it. It's the NFL. There's no gimmies. You have to earn it in this business, so we have to handle it that way.
Baker, in the past you have, kind of engaged with, the Colin Cowards of the world and that sort of thing. Every time I turn on, ESPN or something right now, you've got Stephen A. Smith going off about you, and there's been a lot of heat, national heat on you this week. I'm just wondering what your approach is to that. Are you listening to it? Are you blocking it out? Are you letting it get to you? How are you handling it?
I don't give a damn what they say. It's within this building. We know we can be better. I know I can be better. And that's how it's going to be handled. The outside noise doesn't matter. They get paid to talk. We get paid to do our work. So that's how it's going to be handled.
Hey, Baker, I know you've said, to your teammates something along the lines of, make sure you're holding me accountable. What has it been like? You're playing through injury, not playing as well as you wanted, obviously, Sunday. I guess that could be said for the whole team.
But what has it been like with you and the guys in the building, the people who you do give a damn about?
It's the next game mentality. But we know we can be better. I know I can be better, and they see that. And so we're all in it together right now. There's no the world is crashing right now mentality. We're in it together. We're on to get work and to move forward.
And we haven't asked you about the Bengals yet. Are they playing differently than they did when you saw them the second week of the season?
They're doing a little bit, some small changes, some personnel changes as well. They lost Sam Hubbard and Reader on the inside, so their D-line, we're kind of expecting to react on how they're going to line up, but secondary-wise, one new face and just, schematically wise, they're not doing too much different, but they might disguise it that they're playing better as a unit. And if you look at their games, the games they've lost have been all extremely close games.
Hey, Baker, I saw Dan Orlovsky talking about young quarterbacks in general, but he did mention you. Needing to do a better job getting to the second and third reads. Is that something you agree with, and is that something you've been working on?
Yeah, I think, when people say that, you can sit on the TV chair and go through the reads and say, he's hung up on this guy. But, yeah, I think, when you're trying to have the play called and you want to get the ball to somebody, and if it's not there, you live to play another down. You can check it down, go through your reads. Most likely, if the play call, the one you've drawn up, you've waited for it, it's covered for some reason, that means something else is open. So I'd say that's where that's coming from.
Was that an issue at all with that Minkah Fitzpatrick interception the other day?
Yeah, I saw him going left, when we brought the tight end in motion over there. And then at that point, I had, lost vision of him. So it's about seeing the whole picture. And if it's cloudy in there at all, then let's play another down.
Hey Baker, I'm just curious about your head coach coming off a game like that. What have you seen from him as far as how he's handled, I guess, the adversity of that loss and kind of approaching coming back from it?
Control, we can control, which is a lot of corrections and mistakes that we can fix and move on, go back to work and handle it in such a way that we're ready to get back into action in the middle of the week.
It seems like most of the, issues come when teams sort of maybe try to keep you from booting and rolling out a little bit, and that you kind of need to pick it up when you're in the pocket. And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong about that. But are there things that you can do, and are things Kevin can do schematically, whether it be screens, misdirections, whatever, to get you functioning better within the pocket if teams take away your boots?
I think we can just be more efficiently
1 minute
efficient in the quick game and stuff like that. I think it's all around. If teams want to take away and they have somebody really worried about the quarterback keeping the ball, then that means they have one less guy in the run game, or they're stretching out the field horizontally. So there's different things that we can do and that we can be better at.
And Mary Kay really just touched on what I wanted to ask you about, Baker, but I guess is there, a blueprint that you have to be on alert for when the players made that concerted effort? And obviously schematically the way they played affected it, but do you have to be on alert and be ready to counter when teams do try to take away that what seems like that bread and butter of the scheme?
Yeah, I think we just got to be able to react, find completions like they keep hitting on, and then be ready to fight for 6.
Stand by.
Because they can't play like that the whole game. It's obviously they're doing that. It's a numbers game, so we'll react and adapt, and I think we will handle it.
You're up.
Better.
Z, this is not a good process that we're in, and I hear it in sports. It might happen in politics too. I don't pay attention to it as closely as I do, obviously, sports. But this thing that we're doing now, where we're asking someone, in this case, asking a quarterback to react to thoughts of somebody who is not here and he likely has not seen or heard himself without full context, and then having him respond to it, I just don't know what gets done there. I don't know what gets accomplished there. To ask Baker, I mean, these guys are pundits. Stephen A. is a pundit. Colin Cowherd is a pundit. Dan Orlovsky breaks down film on ESPN on opinion shows. This is not asking him to respond to something his coaches are saying or his teammates are saying. These are people who go on television in an opinion age, which is where we're at in media, and give their opinions. And you're asking him to blindly respond to it where he doesn't have context. And I don't know how this started. I see it in sports all the time. It happens weekly with Baker, and I don't know what's accomplished with it. I suppose it's clicks and then it just keeps it going, but it's a tough one for me to understand, Bud. I don't know that anything good is accomplished with it.
I don't disagree. I feel like it is a crutch that is used to let somebody else who is not present's criticism stand for your opinion under the guise of it not being your opinion. Well, what do you think about what they said about you?
Right.
So it's to stir up controversy. There's no doubt. And
if you or I were in his situation and I were asking you a question and I said, Nathan, hey, look, I was on some radio blog and there were these guys who were talking all sorts of smack about you. You really can't get away from it. A lot of people don't like you. And you hadn't read it or weren't even aware that it existed. What would your natural response be?
My natural response and what my response would be different. It would my response would be, I haven't seen it. I've been too busy prepping for another show.
Yep.
Because I'm a huge bee, and I've got this TV show and this radio show and all of these things coming up. So I've been prepping to do the best I can.
I'm very busy with my very important life. I'm sorry I'm not watching that.
Sorry,
That's how
I didn't see
you
that.
handle it.
Right.
Didn't see it. That's it. That's the way you handle it. Yeah. It's just we see it consistently. It
puts a guy like
puts everybody in
Baker,
a contentious place.
Yes, on edge. It becomes it's a conflictual setup by the nature of it, and Baker's a fiery guy, so he's not going to say, "Oh, I haven't seen any of it. I'm watching film to get better." He's going to say, "I don't give a damn," which is what he did say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right, we will go around the league. We'll have Bernie Kosar coming up at 2:15, as we always do on First Fridays. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Are you looking to refinance or purchase a home? At Union Home Mortgage, their process is simple and straightforward. The loan officer keeps you in the loop all the way to the end zone. Visit unionhomemortgage.com to get a mortgage you'll rave about. Union Home Mortgage, promises kept. Union Home Mortgage Corp, NMLS 2229, is an equal housing lender. Let's go around the league, and really an incredible scene playing out. You're on in Miami, as they earlier this week we found out they benched Fitzmagic in for Tua Tagovailoa to play. Both players were available to the media today, and Fitzpatrick's comments are incredibly honest and appears to of a man who feels like he was done wrong and said so.
And I think you could make the case that he was done wrong. I mean, they've won 3 in a row, and I think what it comes down to is, number one, a communication issue where I don't believe that he was informed that this was, quote-unquote, the plan all along. Number two, this news got out, as Flores admitted this morning, before he was able to tell the guys on the team.
Yeah.
And that's not how you want a situation like this to ever be handled. And so I imagine for Fitz, incredibly disappointing. Like we said, they've won 3 in a row. They just blew out the Niners, blew out the Jets, beat handily the Jags. And that's it. And for a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, he wonders, and rightly so, is this my last game as a starting quarterback? Have I started my last game in the NFL?
It's very clear. It's very clear reading his comments where he says he was blindsided, among other things. He was shocked that his heart hurt. He said, "How was my day?" Well, I spent 4 hours on a Zoom with the guy who fired me and the guy in a room with the guy who replaced me. So that tells you all you need to know about it tells me that Brian Flores did not communicate this plan for Tua Tagovailoa to him at the start of the season. It would be naive to suggest that Ryan Fitzpatrick did not know that eventually he'd be replaced by Tua Tagovailoa. It would also be, I think, very possible that it was not communicated to him that would happen this soon or if at all this season. I think it was reasonable to believe that maybe Tua would sit the entire year and redshirt. He was coming off a major hip surgery. So you would want him 100% before he played. And very clearly, this plan was not communicated to him because he's a pro among pros when it comes to this. He's been in this situation a lot, so there's nothing new. So it clearly tells me that Flores, who's done a lot of things right, got this one wrong.
Yeah, and it's going to be one that I think is going to have, a little bit of a lingering impact, especially if you go out in this first game and they struggle. It's almost putting Tua in a bad spot. Now, one thing I will agree with, too often rookies are put into bad situations. What they're trying to do, I think, is put him into a good situation. We're functioning well as a team. Now let's get our quarterback in while we're functioning well. We have a bye week, 2 weeks to prepare, all of that. You're right. It should have been communicated better, but this communication from Ryan Fitzpatrick is great. And he says, I quote, "I basically got fired yesterday, and my day-to-day consisted of Zoom meetings with the guy who fired me and sitting in a room with the guy who replaced me for 4 hours."
Right.
Not great.
I mean, no, it's not. And you do wonder. It's a tough spot that Flores put himself in because you can't go back to him now without. I mean, you're going to have to play Tua the duration. You got 10 weeks of Tua now is what you're going to do if you're Miami going forward. So it's a risky proposition that he's done here, and it's not like they're in play for Trevor Lawrence. It's not like they have to see what they have in Tua this year. They don't. They got a bunch of picks. If they want to draft another quarterback, they can. But the only sure thing in this draft is Lawrence. Fields is second, but I mean Lawrence is the one that you'd forget anybody for. He's the one Josh Rosen, Kyler situation, right?
Right.
He's the one guy that you would do that stuff for. And speaking of him, Gibby asked the question around the league, if you're the Jets, would you play Darnold or Flacco on Sunday? Flacco taking a 28-yard sack on was quite entertaining to see. This is going to start being discussed, and I do think it'll be real, is if you're Trevor Lawrence and it is that franchise, do you go play your last year at Clemson and avoid it?
Boy. I think it just comes with too much risk. It comes
Luck
with
did it.
So much risk.
Manning and Luck both did it. Now, both of those guys came from families that had financial security. I don't know Trevor Lawrence's family background, but obviously Peyton would have had that and Andrew Luck would have had that. So that I can't speak to that. But you get one shot at this thing. They took Darnold three years ago, and hard to say that he's gotten a fair shake. trust could be an issue, Coach, on that front for Lawrence. And he's got the other year. He's got another year of eligibility. He could force it.
The thing that is most likely is that he, at this juncture, does not know, most likely, what Jets organization he would be playing for.
Well, now that's true, because it'll be a new front office.
You would
coach,
imagine
that
there could be changes.
Right. Yeah. You would think there would be, but I think it's, I don't know. He's got that leverage. He does have the leverage of another year.
So what's
you're going to hear a lot about that.
There is some risk associated. Of course, you probably get a Lloyd's of London insurance policy against your future earnings should you get hurt and thus damage them somehow in college. There are freak injuries that happen that could be career enders. That could occur, of course, in the National Football League as well. But it does seem, I don't know. I just don't know in this day and age. I also think those things that you described happened prior to social media being what social media is now. Because if he did that, the social media and talking head narrative would be that he's afraid to go into a tough situation. And is that what you want from a franchise
I think
quarterback?
by some, but I think some would also say that's an incompetent organization. I don't blame him. It would be hot button, though, to your point. It would be talked about every day, and it will be anyway. So I don't know. It's really fascinating because they clearly are all in on it. They're not going to win a game. They're clearly all in on it. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out and if he will play that card. He has it to play. Bernie Kosar will join us next. He does every week at this time. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Obsessing over something like football can be a problem, but if you're obsessing over gambling, that can be downright dangerous. So do something to take your mind off it, like a hobby. Want more tips like this? Go to keepitfunohio.com for great ways to keep gambling fun. With that, we head out on the fifth third money line. Our great friend Bernie Kosar joining us. How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing pretty good, Bo, and I absolutely am obsessing on football right now.
We are too. And before we get into what we saw in the game on Sunday and what we hope to see this Sunday against Cincinnati, I wanted to ask you about something that's happened here in the last hour with Ryan Fitzpatrick in Miami. So they're 3-3. He's playing at a very high level. A nice win last weekend. Went out to San Francisco, got a nice win. They then bench him for Tua Tagovailoa. You listen to Fitzpatrick's comments where he says he was blindsided, that in a sense he feels cheated, that his kids found out via text from friends that he wasn't even able to tell them himself that he was benched. It seems to us that a lack of communication happened here between coach and quarterback. Is that something that can wreck a team? And is Brian Flores in danger of doing that down there in Miami? And I don't expect you to know everything about the Miami situation, but just in terms of how to manage a team.
Yeah, Bo, there's so many points right there, and being a Hurricane, finishing my career with the Dolphins, still being a lifelong Browns fan, but again, an obsessive lover of football. Watching what Ryan Fitzpatrick did and getting the Dolphins to 3-3, how he played the last couple of weeks in particular. He's a top 10 rated quarterback in the NFL just this season, statistically, on top of how he's played throughout his career. For him and the communication not to be there is incredibly disappointing. You can see the ramifications of it here today, and absolutely that could add to some divisiveness and losses for a team when you have a leadership position like that. And for a guy who's put a lot into the organization, put a lot into that team, for his family and especially his kids to see it via text, it's absolutely, I know, probably something Coach Flores wants back.
Bernie, as we turn our attention to the Browns, we know things didn't go as well as we wanted against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Through your eyes as a quarterback guru, what did you see from Baker Mayfield in that game?
Starting out with both the Ryan Fitzpatrick question and then the Baker Mayfield question, as a quarterback, that is where I like to look at. I say this phrase a lot. I don't want to be a quarterback apologist or Baker's marketing representative, nor other quarterbacks. But I do love how, I use the phrase we're victims or beneficiaries of the guys around us. And I love how Coach Kevin Stefanski led off his post-game talk about pointing the finger at himself. From a leadership point of view, your head coach taking the point, taking the blame, even though from a player perspective, we know as players we need to play better. When your leader, your head coach gets up there and articulates that message, you see that coming down from your players too. So I like how Coach Kevin did that. And again, as quarterbacks being victims or beneficiaries of the guys around us, that was really the first game that our offensive line didn't have its top-tier game. It was the first time that, we weren't running the ball with consistency. I think we had less than 75 yards rushing, 3.4 yards a carry. I mean, heck, the last time we played Cincinnati, we had 215 yards rushing against them. It's imperative within this offense they were able to win the line of scrimmage, set up the running, have the running game to play action off of that. When we didn't have that also, that compounded the problem for Baker in the game. And again, victim or beneficiary of how things are going around you, that Steeler defense, they were ready to play. That wasn't just another game for them the other day. When you heard Coach Tomlin say even during the week that this is the 2020 version, nothing to do with the 2019, you could see and hear in his inflections, see in his face that they wanted to make a statement. And after the game, when you hear Coach Tomlin say that we were the varsity, the game was going to be decided by the bigs. Those are direct, really quotes from him. You could see the intensity that he had within his team, and we didn't match that.
No, we didn't. The great Bernie Kosar on with us here on Cleveland Browns Daily. So we have a very sure and direct path for victory, Bernie. We've seen it in the 4 wins, and that is run the ball, hit some big chunk plays early, and then salt the game away with the run game in the second half, and ideally when you have both Chubb and Hunt and one of them's fresh, and you just basically strangle the game away. What the evolution that you're looking for now, and it's happened when you've played 2 Super Bowl contenders, and it just so happens the 2 Super Bowl contenders are in your division, is how can you chase a game with this offense? So schematically for me, what will it look like when it's going right, chasing a game within this offense?
Well, that's absolutely a fair question, and that is the aspect of the game and the team right now that absolutely needs worked on, wants to be worked on, and hopefully in the short run we're not in that situation, because that will take a little more time to work on. And while you're working on that, I really believe it's imperative to not get ourselves in positions like we did last week or in the first game of the year against Baltimore, because we're not really set up now. We were 1 for 12 on third down this past Sunday against the Steelers. So dropping back and throwing the ball from the pocket consistently, especially on third down when other teams know that we're going to do that, has been inconsistent for us now. So figuring out that as we go may take a little bit more time, but the running game and the play action off of that, Cincinnati, and worrying, like Coach Stefanski says, of just worrying about today getting better today and trying to make this a 1-0 week, is what do we have to do to beat Cincinnati? And Cincinnati is a team that is really poor at stopping the run. We got 215 yards rushing against them last game. So for us to stay within the stuff we do well, running offensively now, and that's running the ball and play action, because if we get ourselves in that other spot, you could see we're not really set up just yet to be consistent, getting chunk plays.
And Bernie, how important is it, though, that between now we got 10 games left this season, that you can become a team that can convert on third down, so you become a team that can throw yourself to a victory if need be? Because when you are limited in your scripts to victory, I imagine that becomes very daunting, and teams are very good in the NFL at trying to take away what it is that you do well and force you to do what you're uncomfortable with. So how important is it to prove it, and what is that evolution? You said we're not there yet. So what is it that you're going to see what do you have to do to get there, and how important is it to get there if this is a team that has playoff and even making noise in the playoff aspirations?
Well, it's important to get there when you want to be a Super Bowl type team, and that is our goal, and that does take a little bit of time to get there. Well, you saw teams, though, like the Tennessee Titans. I don't want to diminish anything that Coach Vrabel and the awesome job that they've done down there. But they were to the AFC Championship game last year, and they probably couldn't offensively come back like we're talking about with a true passing game. So the ability to come back and the ability to create first downs on with third down conversions, so that we don't go 1 for 12 like we did against Pittsburgh last week. Figuring out maybe different personnel groups, different formations and personnel groups, sometimes on that 3 to third and 3 to 3 to 7 or 8. Typically in the past, most teams have gone 11 personnel, 1 tight end, 1 receiver, or one tight end, 1 running back, and 3 receivers. or one running back and 4 receivers, but sometimes able to stay with multiple tight ends and multiple backs and throw defenses off. I think those are the types of things that teams like Tennessee started doing last year, teams like Baltimore started doing last year, and with our physical presence at the running, with the line of scrimmage, with the offensive line, with the multiple tight ends and multiple backs, we may be able to evolve with those type of formational and personnel groups that are a little bit more creative on third down packages to take advantage of things that we do well.
Bernie, it's Nathan. We're all in the audience so lucky to be able to have you to come on here. And Nathan and I never played quarterback, obviously, in the National Football League, get alone at the level you did. And so I like to lean on that and take me inside a quarterback's head, because we started this off talking about the Fitzpatrick situation and then Baker and criticism. And when you are a quarterback, and it's the most important position in all of sports, I don't think anybody would argue that. When you are that and you start to suffer from those slings and arrows, whether it's national media, local media, fans, how do you turn it off? What advice do you give quarterbacks, young quarterbacks especially, with dealing with criticism and not letting it be something that can overtake you?
Yeah, Beau, massively important point right here. And it's so much harder today with social media, with cell phones all around you, with iPads and laptops and all that stuff to just separate yourself. I was able to say back 35 years ago, just don't read the paper, just don't watch TV. There was only 4 or 5 TV stations back then, and who reads the newspaper these days? So that's easier said than done, but I would really almost isolate myself as best possible, focus just solely on what, just like Coach Kevin Stefanski says, solely focus on what I could do today to get better, stay away from all that outside peripheral stuff, because we try to pretend we're not human, but that stuff does affect us. That gets into our head, and the more we listen to that, the more we pay attention to that, the more we get off our game, we lose our focus, and we want to stay focused for Cincinnati this week.
You wonder if that's why Andrew Luck had that flip phone.
That's right.
Can't get on those apps on that flip phone, man.
Yeah, you got to know your password just to make an app. Right. So I'm gonna look up to Andrew Luck even more now that you told me that.
Yeah.
Bernie, and what's kind of a rare thing on the schedule, all 3 of our division road games come in the first 7 weeks of the season. The Browns obviously 0-2 so far on the road in the division. They lost last year in Cincinnati. So you've lost 4 straight on the road in the division. How important is it to go and not only just to get that win, kind of quiet everything that came out of that Pittsburgh game, but also to get a divisional win on the road and set yourself up for a chance to, have a winning record in the division if you take care of business on the home field?
Yeah, the ability just to get a win on the road in the division, to have the winning record, for the confidence, for the self-esteem, for the belief moving forward, from all those points, it's absolutely would be something effective. I don't want to be too greedy, but that's absolutely what the doctor's ordering for us.
Yeah, it would be fun. It really would. It'd be fun to get it and get to 2-0 against Cincinnati and absolutely own the Battle of Ohio. Bernie, such a pleasure to have you on, buddy. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for your time.
Go Browns.
Absolutely. The great Bernie Kosar there. And, of course, he joined on the Fifth Third Money Line. A reminder, all guests who appear on Cleveland Browns Daily do so via the Fifth Third Money Line. Fifth Third Bank making Cleveland Browns Daily a fifth third better. You'll hear Odell Beckham Jr. from the podium coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Raising Cane's, and on game day, go for the win with Raising Cane's chicken fingers. Stack your roster with delicious hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers and cane sauce. It's the best. Huddle up with crispy, crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, buttery Texas toast as well. Top it all off with freshly made tea and lemonade. Sweet tea, fantastic. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, proud sponsor of Ohio High School Associate and Ohio State Athletics. Two great things right there. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. All right, earlier today, Odell Beckham Jr. was at the podium. I will say that the news that has come out since about the sanctions with LSU was not available to the media at the time of this presser, just so you know that. Here is Odell from earlier today.
Hey, Odell. First,
both down.
What was last week like for you with, feeling sick and going home and then having to do the COVID protocols and being able to rejoin the team in person on Saturday? How strange and weird was that experience?
The sucks, but that's just what we have set up for this year. That's what they seem to have voted on and did all these phone calls and everything to come up with whatever the game plan is going to be. So, like Coach said, just embrace the suck. It is what it is. It's just part of the 2020 season.
Hey, Odell, I think last year you said you weren't always comfortable standing in front of the team and talking. So why did you feel compelled during that game against the Steelers to kind of pull everybody together and talk to the offense?
It's just something that's been on my heart. It's been on my mind, even when we were winning games. As I've been in the NFL, I've really realized, okay, there's 16 games, and the mindset within a game, if you're getting beat up on, is like, all right, well, we have a game next week. And to me, I hate that. I hate that more than anything. I feel like you should win every single game. I feel like you should give it everything you have into the last whistle, because let's say you come away with a win in that game instead of, you have to wait till next week. Now you have a loss on your record. You could have just won that game and fought again next week. So I'm trying to change that mentality, that mindset, but I understand it's the NFL. It's just been that way since I've been a rookie. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's just kind of it's an NFL mentality thing. But that game's important, not just to keep the winning train rolling, but it's a divisional game. It counts for a little more. So just trying to find a way that we can get us all going.
Did you feel like guys appreciated the message and listened to you?
I don't know. That's up to for you to ask them. I just I feel like I wouldn't be taking any steps forward if I wouldn't do that kind of thing, even though it's something that I don't generally do or really want to do, because you don't know if the message will ever be received or whatever the case is. But you kind of have to leave that part behind you and just do what you feel.
Odell, can you just talk about, how badly you want to win, and you could see it on the sidelines there in the fourth quarter, how much this means to you, how passionate you are. I know sometimes it gets misconstrued, but when you're over there and they're showing you on TV, what's going on in your mind and soul in that moment?
I'm pissed, and at this point I really don't care to keep trying to make myself look like a good guy into the world and all that, because I am who I am. I got pulled out of the game. The coach said this was the best decision. It's 8 minutes left, and for me, I'd rather take my ass whooping like a man. I'd rather take my win the same way. I want to be out there to the last whistle competing. And as you know, Dallas game in the first quarter, I got tackled, stubbed my toe into the ground, kind of had this lingering turf toe issue. So if I'm not going to play, I'm not going to stand there with cleats on the sideline and my toe be jammed in there. But at the same time, I never want to come out of a game, win, lose. I don't care if we're up 50, down 50. I don't ever want to come out of the game, and that's always going to be my mentality. I'm kind of over, trying to play the right thing because, I love them to death, but there's people who have plenty of rings and consider the GOAT, and they do things on the sideline, and other people do things on the sideline, and they get away with it, and it's classified as passion because they may have something behind their legacy or whatever it is. And to me, bro, we love this that much. It means that much. There's no way around it. I don't care if I have 0 rings, 12 rings, 20 rings. I love this game of football, and I'm not gonna keep doling myself to for the world to feel like I'm mature or whatever word you would like to throw around it. I'm always gonna be me. And tired of losing to good teams, and just ultimately want to win. And one day, when it's all said and done, we'll all clearly see that. But in the meantime, while we're in it, I'm sure we won't. So I just keep pushing forward. It's not gonna bother me anymore.
So that was a combination of we're getting our butts kicked by this great team, and we shouldn't be getting our butts kicked by this great team. And I'm also ticked off that I just got yanked out of the game. Was it kind of both of those things?
Yeah, a combination. And not to say that we shouldn't have lost the game, because they came out and just outplayed us, and they were the better team that day. And sometimes you got to give your hats off to the other team. But yeah, a combination of everything. It's not like I am out here and I'm giving up. I'm never giving up on my teammates, never giving up on a team or anything like that. So that's not really in me. So I refuse to let that be the narrative of what was going on.
So Odell, did you get a sense that maybe you guys were flat last week, and if so, do you sense a new determination in since you guys have been back?
I don't really know if you can get a sense of it. It just I kind of was saying it all game long when we were at Pittsburgh. I'm like, this is one of them games you have to bring your own energy. This shit is dead. Like, it's dead. There's no other way to explain it. And the interception in the first quarter was like, oof, thank you. Like, I needed it. I needed to be picked up. It was just energy just wasn't there. Whether it was flat, whatever it was, I feel like we didn't come out as fired up as they did, and it showed throughout the rest of the game.
Hey, Odell, Baker said the building has felt like 0-6. He said 4-2's never felt like 0-6 before because you're coming off that Steelers loss. Do you agree with that? And do you think it's good or bad that you're taking that loss so seriously?
I think it's pretty important. For me, I hate losing. I think you should go 16-0 every season. It's the goal. Of course, falling short of that would be great, but I just don't see why you should ever go into a game and
1 minute
losing it or whatever it is. But we are 4-2. We are in a good place. I think it's just about finding confidence within the people within this building, because I don't think people expected us to be 4-2 anyways. They might have expected us to have some wins here and there, but you think about the NFL, a lot of the games that might have been lost last year were won this year, in a sense. And instead of being 2-4, we're 4-2.
30.
And that's the way that the NFL goes. That's the way that these games go. But also for me, the biggest thing is I think it's important for everyone to understand, to have a mentality that we should never lose a game. There shouldn't, even if we're down 21 points in the first quarter, it's not like you should pack it in and get ready for next week.
Stand by.
The mentality should be to win this game. And that's the only focus, to win the game that's in front of us, to win the day that's in front of us. And that's the plan for this Wednesday, is to win the day.
You're up.
Man, that's awesome. That is I love kind of the explanation of the college mentality, and we have a lot of those guys on this roster who are at Big State U that won a lot, and the sky falls at Big State U when you don't win a lot. And you feel like every game is a Super Bowl at those places, and if you lose, the whole next week in local radio in those towns, the sky is falling. So this is that was a really good explanation for him about how he approaches every game. That is something he just basically refuses to change from, and I applaud it. I think it's fantastic.
I love it too. I love his competitive fire. I love his competitive zest. And you need that. You need to have people that losing hurts them deeply to their core. And obviously, that game didn't go the way anybody wanted, even remotely. But, if you're juiceless, you're useless, is something Kevin Stefanski said earlier. And the fact that he said we had to bring our own juice, like, we're on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers, who are undefeated. We're 4-1, and we're trying to prove something. So, yeah, I think we got to figure out our juice issue a little bit, because if there were ever a situation that this team should have been the furthest thing, overamped and you're sloppy because you're too hyped, okay.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be flat against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, not at all. And when you talk to people around this franchise, around this program, inside it, about what Odell Beckham Jr. has been, it's exemplary. And Jarvis as well. Like, these guys work so hard They work with the younger guys. They coach them up. They set an example with their practice habits that everybody ought to mimic. And that's what they do. We're lucky to have them. We're lucky to have them. I really can't wait till we win with them, and we are. We're 4-2, and this thing will get better. And we've seen it already better than it was last year with Odell in terms of an ability to get deep and the big plays on a more regular basis. It just needs to be something that happens week in and week out. And Jarvis too. Those things need to be unlocked a little bit in this passing game because we'll all be better for it. And you heard Coach talk about that earlier today because he gets an Odell question really every week. And he talked about it earlier. The winning helps all of it, but you want to be able to win in a way that takes advantage of all that you're capable of, and that will come as the season goes along.
Right, and it is, as you said, this becomes the perfect sport for this. This week feels, even though it's First Friday, it feels like it's taken a long time to get here.
Forever.
Yeah. Last time we were playing tomorrow.
Right.
This time we've got this full week, and you're going to have to deal with it, and you're going to have to deal with everything that comes with it. And all you can do is control what you can on Sunday. And this is a chance. Look, the last time we went down Cincinnati, I know it's completely different circumstances. Week 17 did not go well down there. Joe Mixon ran all over us. We were handled. 2019 Browns, no relation to the 2020 Browns. None. But we've got to go handle this business because you don't win this game, you've got to sweep the Steelers and the Ravens here to be 3-3 in your division. Mm-hmm. This is an important game to get for a variety of reasons.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you currently sit as in the 5 spot in the AFC. You've beaten one of the teams that you're going to be contending for that spot in Indy. This Cincinnati team, you have no interest in giving them belief. Like, don't be the reason they win the next 2 or 3. Don't you be the reason for that. You are better than them. You're more talented than them. You know the recipe to beat them because you did it in the second week of the season. Give them no hope. This is a big character week. And Joe said it earlier in the week that it's the biggest game of Baker Mayfield's career. This is a big game for this franchise to show that the bounce back is there. And we saw it in week 1 when we went from week 1 to week 2, and then it continued with a 4-game win streak. And now you have another setback and a lot of overanalyzing, and now you're moving on, and you need to have that same type of bounce back down in Cincinnati on Sunday.
You do. And their last year, things just kind of got, after week 4, they just went downhill, right? 2-2, that was the peak for the Browns. Week 4, the win in Baltimore. You're 4-2. You're being talked about like a team that is 2-4. Mm-hmm. Most of that centers around your quarterback for the reasoning. Nobody's questioning the coaching. Nobody's questioning, a lot of the other things on the team. It really is centered on Baker thus far, the criticisms on a national scale. So, yeah, I do think this is an important game for him because this is an opportunity to get to 5-2. You cannot be labeled as anything other than a contender at 5-2 in the National Football League. You can't. And so this game is very important because you don't get this one. Now you're facing a Raiders team that has feisty, beat the Chiefs on the road, and all of a sudden you could be 4-4 at the break. So the pressure only ratchets up. You get this one, we're good. You're safe. You're 5-3 worse at the break. An opportunity to be 6-2, and then all of a sudden everybody has to change their tune.
Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Beat a couple of the teams that are, split the teams that are of equal, and steal one from somebody who's better, and you're in the playoff. It's that simple. This isn't a hard recipe. It's that simple. That's the recipe. You do that, you're going to be in the playoffs. That was the stated goal of this team: be in the playoffs. Are we where Pittsburgh and Baltimore is? No, not yet. We're building towards that. Look what happened in one offseason, kids. What's going to happen in the next offseason, right? This is how capable we are. You got steady people at the head of the ship. And the improvement will be there.
Yes.
And it's going to start with a big one in Cincinnati this week. It's big. It really is.
It's a huge
Much more to come.
So much.
Yeah, it is. Cleveland Browns. So much. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Join the Browns season ticket member waitlist today for the best chance at securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Deposits start at just $100 a seat. Reserve your spot today by visiting clevelandbrowns.com. Do you see that second charity golf duel is coming in November, right after Thanksgiving out in Arizona? They're going to be playing it. I was not aware of I read it. I don't have it off the top of my head, but the course I was not aware of. Have you seen? Do you know the course they're playing at? And do you know the combatants?
I know that Sir Charles is involved and that Steph Curry.
So, yes. It's Manning and Steph Curry versus Mickelson and Barkley. What I'm not certain about here, because three of them are hilarious with Manning, Mickelson, and Barkley. Curry obviously is a really good golfer. How will Curry fit in with that type of personality mix is my first question. My second question is, why does Barkley keep putting himself in these spots when his game is what it is?
It's still going to be hard. I don't care how good Steph Curry is. He and Manning to beat Mickelson is going to be tough. I realize they get strokes and all of that, and so that's going to help them. But Barkley just is probably, his handicap's got to be, what?
Max.
40?
Whatever max is.
2 shots on every hole, so he's just got to find a way to, Mickelson might have him putt the ball as hard as he can down the fairway to make, because anytime he makes a bogey, it's going to be a birdie.
It's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, just hit wedge off the tee.
I don't know he can hit wedge. I don't know that he's capable of hitting a full shot.
Doesn't appear. I guess he could chip it.
Why not? Why is Larry David not in this? Avid golfer, can actually play, would be hilarious, would be so dry. With he and Mickelson together would be phenomenal. I just feel bad for Charles, and it's not watching him play golf is not fun. And I can't imagine watching an entire round of it is going to be fun.
No.
He must feel like he's fixed this without
I don't
anybody
think he cares.
knowing it.
I just think he loves golfing, and he loves poking fun at himself, and so he just deals with it. But, I saw him at that Tahoe event last year, and it's the same. It's that same hitch thing. He's never had that fixed. Remember Hank Haney tried fixing it? Nobody could fix it.
It's like a full stop. It's
full
painful to watch.
Yeah. It's weird he even takes it all the way back, honestly. I don't know why they don't just have him half swing everything and try to build it from there. It's strange. I just don't know what Curry's role is going to be in it.
He's going to have to prove that he's entertaining. He's going to have to be...
Yeah. I've never seen that from him.
Gregarious.
Yeah.
1 minute.
He and Mickelson versus... If you have to have Manning in it, I was trying to think. I think Justin Thomas would be great in these. He was great on the mic. He would be fun somehow to get him involved because he runs his mouth as good as anybody.
He was great at the first one as the
Yeah.
on-field
How about a little
commentator.
Bill Murray?
Bill Murray would be great. I just don't know why there needs to be a pro on both sides.
Yeah.
30.
I think.
Yeah, because you're right. Mickelson and Chuck in tremendous advantage.
Yeah.
All those free strokes. Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's fun. We'll have more fun tomorrow. Turn the page entirely to Cincinnati. Get you your matchups and all of that as we get on to the Bengals. The next level coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.